Federal government restates commitment to intensifying fight against corruption.
Over 1,400 criminal convictions associated with high-profile corruption cases.
Nigerian Air Force debunks reports alleging financial deal with bandits as Nigeria Customs Service refutes claim associating an officer with bandits.
Federal government launches aerial spray to depopulate quail birds.
It is to reduce the population of these birds to a manageable proportion that the farmers can collect the yield from their efforts.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on securing critical national infrastructure.
The spate of willful destruction and vandalism of public property and infrastructure across the country is yet to abate despite sustained advocacy on national television and various fora against the unpatriotic trend. Kingsley.
Quite true, Juma. Now, vandalism of critical national infrastructure is one topic we have treated on a number of occasions on Good Morning Nigeria, with various solutions proffered to the problem, but apparently without concomitant action or proactive measures by relevant agencies of government to tackle the menace. In fact, they appear to be overwhelmed by the hoodlums and their nefarious activities.
Indeed, Kingsley, and only last week, men of the Nasarawa State Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps flagged down and intercepted a heavy-duty truck conveying an estimated 970 railway sleepers to an unknown destination.
Now, that action would, of course, have given Nigerians cause to cheer if the vandals were apprehended alongside the stolen assets. But the account of the civil defense officials indicates that the vandals were not on board the heavy-duty truck when it finally came to a stop after it was flagged down.
And that account got many Nigerians wondering if the heavy-duty truck of 970 railway sleepers were being driven or piloted by spirits. Now, nevertheless, the NTA were promptly dispatched on the trail of the vandals, and it remains to be seen if they will be apprehended and brought to justice.
And the crux of the matter is exactly that, Jumai. Now, time without number, vandals of rail sleepers and other critical national infrastructure have evaded the long arm of the law, and that appears to embolden other potential vandals and their accomplices that they too can get away with vandalism and willful destruction or looting of critical public infrastructure.
I still wonder, Kingsley, how these vandals get the technical know-how to loosen or uncouple the rail tracks. How do they get the tools and the technical knowledge to remove such metals used for the rail tracks?
Well, that also speaks to the concern of some Nigerians that most likely these vandals operate as a syndicate because they eventually convey their loot using haulage trucks to metal scrap dealers, where they are probably weighed and then, of course, the scrap disposed of at ridiculous rates, but certainly at the expense of the public good. And one also wonders why owners of the haulage trucks will avail their services to convey vandalized public assets for pecuniary gain, again at the expense of the public. Now, where are the whistleblowers between the host communities and the scrap markets and then the smelting points?
Kingsley, if these points we have raised are anything to go by, then it shouldn't be rocket science for the law enforcement agencies to bust these vandals and their accomplices who engage in such organized crimes. Well, for the uptime time, we'll discuss ways of securing Nigeria national infrastructure on Good Morning Nigeria, with the hope that law enforcement agencies and the justice delivery system will come alive to their responsibilities. My name is Jumma Yusuf. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, the first for this week.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Jumai to also welcome you to the program live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And by the way, Jumai, the problem we are discussing today is one that has been plaguing our nation for well over 3 decades now. I'm sure persons of the younger generation probably see our highways these days and sneer and snigger and say, look how rotten our highways are. When the first expressway was built in Nigeria, that's from Lagos to Ibadan, and followed, of course, by the Shagamu and Benin Highway, those highways and the crash barriers, the aluminum crash barriers, were like anything you will still find today in advanced countries. And then gradually, on account of accidents and also on account of willful pilfering, the aluminum crash barriers were taken off one after the other, particularly for a place like Lagos, where the overhead bridges also had those aluminum crash barriers. Gradually, the crash barriers were removed, smelted, and used for jewelry or otherwise in producing pots and pans and other things. But those are criminal events or criminal activities that continue to fester. Now, it is the railway tracks that are being heavily affected. As usual, in the course of our Good Morning Nigeria program, we have a newspaper review, business, and others. But for now, that's the highlights of the morning news with our ever-smiling colleague, Nolin Belame. Good morning, Nolin.
And she's smiling again.
Good morning, Kingsley and Jumai. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the news. We begin with some outcomes of APC state congresses held across the country. Results from Katsina State shows that Sani Alihu Ahmad has emerged new APC chairman in the state through consensus. The APC in Kogi State has returned unopposed the incumbent state executive officers of the party. And in Jigawa State, Aminu Sani Gumel emerged as the new state APC chairman in a consensus method adopted by members of the party. And for more results of APC state congresses in other zones of the country, we hear that Colonel David Imose has emerged as state chairman of the APC in Edo State. The relatively peaceful exercise was monitored by APC State Congress Committee. In Enugu State, 2 factional state chairmen have emerged. They are Ugochukwu Agbala and Adolphus Chidubem. Elsewhere, Prince Sunday Fagbemi from Kwara South Senatorial District emerged as chairman of the APC in Kwara State. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, also conducted congresses in some states. Oyo State witnessed parallel congresses with pockets of skirmishes. In Lagos State, the PDP Congress was declared inconclusive after a series of gunshots. The PDP Congress in Ebonyi State saw the emergence of Tochukwu Okorie as a chairman of the party in the state. In Kebbi State, about 2,000 delegates participated in the Congress. In Kwara State, the former Speaker House of Assembly of the state, Babatunde Mohammed, was elected unopposed as the state chairman of the PDP. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, says Nigerians should expect to see more in the federal government's fight against corruption. The senior advocate who visited NTA Kebbi also revealed that a number of criminal convictions associated with high-profile corruption cases have been secured by the federal government.
2015, when this government came into office, only 103 convictions were recorded. But as of today, even before the 2021 runs out, we have recorded over 1,400 criminal convictions associated with high-profile corruption cases.
And on security, the Nigerian Air Force has condemned what it calls fake news reports circulating on some media platforms alleging that it paid the sum of 20 million naira to armed bandits operating in Jibia local government area of Katsina State in exchange for an anti-craft gun allegedly seized. A statement refuting the claims made in the Washington Post and Summit Post News, NAF said there was no basis to engage with bandits or criminals in such a manner, calling the reports untrue and an attempt at casting doubt on its good name. This latest false report could be a part of a campaign to perpetuate insecurity in Nigeria by elements who see the Nigerian Air Force as a threat following a series of successful exploits in operations against criminal gangs. While reaffirming its commitment to defending the nation's territorial integrity, the Nigerian Air Force calls on citizens to keep cooperating with security forces and disregard the news as fake. In the same vein, the Nigeria Customs Service has described as ridiculous a video trending on social media claiming that a newly promoted Deputy Superintendent of Customs is a bandit. The Public Relations Officer of the service, Joseph Atta, says the said officer was recruited through a rigorous process in 2011 and has just been promoted to Deputy Superintendent of Customs, but people misinterpreted his excitement. He described as unfortunate the fact that those who are bent on presenting the country in a bad light could take a simple human error during the decoration ceremony to ridicule his person and attempt to extend same to the service and the nation. Atta said, a look at the circulating pictures clearly shows that the officer is not the same person as a pictured bandit and urges Nigerians to disregard the claim as false. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, on its part, has arrested 663 suspected drug traffickers at notorious drug joints across the country. Among the suspects arrested is a fake police officer, a fake soldier, as well as a youth corps member. The raid uncovered assorted illicit drugs weighing over 153,256.8 kilograms. The substances include cocaine, heroin, tramadol, rofinol, and cannabis sativa. The federal government has launched an emergency intervention to fight the ravaging quilla birds and other transborder pests in northwestern part of the country.
These quilla birds are mostly found in water area where they have this typer grass. The team of Ministry of Agric, in collaboration with the state government, mostly used to identify these hiding places.
Because no matter how destructive these birds are, they also play a role in the environment, to maintain balance in the environment. So it is to reduce the population of these birds to a manageable proportion that the farmers can collect the yield from their efforts.
That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Jumai after this break. I am Nolin Ebel Ame. Good morning.
This present government has done a lot on the train modernization. They came in and completed the Abuja-Kaduna, and we have 9 stations there, 5 stopping stations and 4 crossing stations, making 9. And when we started in 2016, we started with 2 trips, then we later moved on to 8 trips. And we are talking about moving to 14 trips a day, and we have been able to send 10 DMUs, 10 coaches, and 2 locomotives new. We have 12 stations on the Tapere line. It's about 312 kilometer length of track, and it's over 35 years old. And the government came and took it up, finished the track, build modern stationing, and the stations are finished. Working on the signaling. We all hope to start the commercial operation by the end of September.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. its great value, it protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
Here today, gone tomorrow. 'Cause you volatile like the water, and you promise what you don't know. Sometimes it's right and then it's so wrong. Them go do like say them wise, go promise you the world. My brother, all now was shit. Up all on no be open eye. I said no be water, can't no be letter.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
You are watching Good Morning Nigeria on Business News this morning. Nigerian Export Promotion Council seeks women inclusion and participation in non-oil exports. Details with Comfort Amadou.
The Nigerian Export Promotion Council, through the Export Expansion Facility Program, has taken steps to ensure inclusion of women in export business as the council starts a capacity building workshop for about 100 women on export readiness in collaboration with Agro Chains Consult in Lagos.
They make a lot of products that are very, very unique. And because their products are unique, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council considered it very necessary to carve out a division for them, solely for them, dedicated to them, to make sure that we build them up gradually, their capacity through trainings and retrainings.
Nigeria is looking at increasing its export basket. Because there's a lot of technical barriers, it's just very important that exporters begin to prepare for a time when they can export.
The initiative is geared towards institutionalizing the inclusion of more women-led SMEs into the non-oil export network, targeted at training them on improved branding, packaging, standardized certifications, which will in turn help the businesses access new global markets through its Export Expansion Facility program.
There are a lot of women producing a lot of items, but they not find, cannot, or they don't even know their means through which they can be exported.
Really demystifying exports, which is something that for someone like me, I've been trying to get around.
The drive by the NAPC to promote the variation of Nigerians' export for inclusive and sustainable growth is gaining traction as the federal government commits to raising an army of exporters. With Business News, Comfort Amadou.
Thank you very much, Comfort, for the business package, and Good Morning Nigeria. Coming up next is Newspaper Review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Abayo Toby, is not here for now, but we'll now begin the paper review. Let me begin with the Punch newspaper.
That's right.
Just above the masthead, we have FG personnel cost rises by 79.48%, gulfs 13.2 trillion in 4 years. You find details on page 27. Pandora Papers EFCC opens probe of Obi, Odua, NPA boss and others. You find details on page 14. Nigerian Air Force denies paying 20 million naira to save Buhari's plane from bandits. That's on page 14. 750,000 empty supply gap. Forex shoot cooking gas above 8,000 naira. Find details on page 28. At the side page of the Punch newspaper, presidency falls on NITR Council contest minister's dissolution order. Page 14. Reps suspect FCT IRS recruitment, demand applicants shortlisted candidates list. Find details on page 10. And the headlines we have in the Punch newspaper: APC parallel congresses. Amosun, Aregbesola, Lai may lose out. Party to back governors. With kickers, it's the practice to respect incumbent governors. They are party leaders. National caucus member, that's attributed to a national caucus member. Illegal congresses won't be recognized. That's attributed to the All Progressives Congress. Mass defection looms, says Muez Baneri. Al-Zazaki sues AGF, DSS over detention, passport seizure, demands 2 billion naira. Find details on page 14. Missing 9. Benue local government imposes dusk to dawn curfew as tension rises. You find details on page 8. Bandits invade Nasarawa Federal University, kidnap 2 students, demand 25 million. You find details on page 8. And the picture story you see there: suspected cattle rustlers and bandits arrested in Fadamar Lungu of Giawa district during their parade by the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Sokoto State Command, in Sokoto on Sunday. Quite a handful in the Punch newspaper this morning.
That's right. The Punch is pretty busy.
Yes.
But we also have The Nation, and The Nation equally has a number of headlines and riders. So let's start from above the name flag. Minister, that's the Minister of Transport, railway paying back loans. With the rider, government targets 6,000 kilometer lines. And of course, just as well, because that's what we are discussing this morning, that's the vandalism of critical infrastructure. The rail lines, as they are being laid, are also being pilfered, the sleepers in particular, by criminal elements. Kogi government to EFCC disclose custodian of missing cash. MTN blames outage on 3G and 4G technical error. And NNPC accountable and transparent, says Kiare, that's the group managing director. Anambra 2021, rule out postponement of poll, says INEC. APC to hold rally November 3rd. Nigerian equities make 310 billion naira gain in global rally. Congress is not conducted by accredited officials, null and void, says APC. And the late story, of course, is still on politics. Secondus and Anyao deepen PDP pre-convention crisis. Suspended chair won't withdraw case. That's the first rider. Second rider, Southeast chieftains reject governor's candidate for secretary. And lastly, at the foot of the front page there, you have a headline: Buhari's wife seeks action against cancer. And Nigerians decry rising food prices, and of course also price of cooking gas. And it's posted in greater detail on page 43. So
price of cooking gas is really affecting every household now.
That's right. The 12.5 kg keeps climbing. We are told that it's a number of factors, including the cost of importation and the 7.5% VAT on the imported LPG, which has been imposed so as to protect the domestic producers. But the domestic producers are unable to satisfy local demand.
Yes.
So it just keeps going on. But the big stories, of course, from the weekend are the ones of politics. That's to say, the state congresses of the various parties, and we have already seen from the way the congresses were conducted in some states. In Lagos, the governor said that any parallel congress was a mere naming ceremony. That's a hilarious way of looking at it. But much more seriously, in places where parallel congresses have been conducted, these are the usual seeds of discord that have been sown. It's like a mustard seed, but you will see it germinate in future when the time comes to nominate candidates for elections. And usually, as a pre-election matter, the question would then be which of the state party executive committees is authorized or empowered to conduct the primaries for the candidates. So if it is not the authentic one, then you will see the matter going to court and on and on and on. So it drags on, just like until only last week, before the Supreme Court heard that it was one faction of ABGA in Anambra State that was the authentic faction. And therefore the one to conduct the primaries that produced Charles Soludo. So these are just the seeds, and why politicians do not appear to be able to resolve their differences is one critical issue.
The stage is set now for just maybe cross-carpeting, changing party. It's just like a play that was stopped in 2019 and it's going to continue right now.
Well, that's the way it is. That's the quest for power that we keep seeing there. Two other stories that have been debunked by the authorities. We had those stories on our bulletin. One had to do with a claim that went viral on social media at the weekend that the Nigerian Air Force paid 20 million naira to bandits. To take away from them an anti-aircraft gun which they allegedly seized when they overran a military location, and that the whole idea of paying the bandits off was to ensure that the president's aircraft, which normally overflies that axis, it doesn't get taken down. Well, the source of that story wasn't a Nigerian newspaper. It wasn't a Nigerian media outlet. It was quoting an American publication, and just as well that the Air Force authorities have debunked that particular claim and proceeded. The other one, of course, had to do with an officer who was in the
I saw the video. I think he was just excited. I think at being promoted, and I don't know.
Yes, the claim was that his facial appearance is a look-alike that of a bandit.
A wanted bandit, yes.
Well, the bandit who had the photograph with the Katsina governor. But sometimes, purveyors of fake news can go to any length to disparage the authorities. The officer, of course, needs to go back. That's to say the customs officer who is just promoted and got overexcited should go back and learn his parade drills.
Exactly.
I think so that you will know when to stand at attention. If they say about turn, I don't know whether you turn left now, you turn right to make that. We did that during the NYC, and now my legs were aching me at some point in time. So he has to go back and get to learn the appropriate.
I don't think he has had any, parade since he graduated from custom school. Maybe.
Well, they should have it.
If it is constant,
it should be fit. Yeah, it should be constant. That's one way to look at it, and then I'll get on. 1 week, last weekend, that we had the MTN outage. You recall?
Yeah.
And again, another fake news. Well, I don't know whether it's fake news or real. That some hackers, had already devised a means of mimicking the MTN chief executive, and that if you open the link, then of course they will hack your phone. But MTN, of course, has now come out as the chief executive in Nigeria, blaming the outage on 3G and 4G technical error.
5G or 3G?
No, 3G and 4G. We are yet to launch the 5G.
Yes.
That was some switching concern, and that they have compensated MTN subscribers for. It's some very difficult arithmetic to calculate, to say the data or airtime you didn't use between, or you should have used between time, is it 12 noon or so for several hours. Yeah. Why don't you just give a flat credit? You know, for your MTN subscribers, your MTN will not go bankrupt if you were to give a flat compensation.
And 1 megabyte that cannot even open a browser.
Precisely. You say 1,000 naira to all your subscribers. I'm sure your subscribers will continue to remain loyal to you. But all these ones are calculating whether you use the phone between 12 midnight or 12 noon and 6 p.m. Will be a tough one for persons to go
and
through.
Another kidnapping again. Very sad. Bandits invade Nasarawa Federal University, kidnap 2 students, demand 25 million. Another sad one.
Another sad one. But, well, I mean, that's one news is good. One piece of news is good. The other is sad. The emir of Bungundu in Zamfara, who was kidnapped on his way between Kaduna and Abuja, has been freed. This is after 32 days in captivity. The emir of Bungundu, we, of course, are happy with you that you've regained your freedom, but certainly the trauma is one that will take a while to wear off. So, Jumai, in the absence of anything else, I think we call it a time on the newspaper review segment and take a short break now. When we return, we're getting ahead with discussing the lingering problem of the vandalism of critical national infrastructure.
Has commenced second phase of COVID-19 vaccination. If you are 18 years and above and unvaccinated, register at www.nphcda.vaccination.gov.ng. Visit the nearest vaccination site to receive AstraZeneca or Moderna COVID-19 vaccine as first dose. If you received your first dose of AstraZeneca vaccine before 8th July, get your second dose now. All COVID-19 vaccines are free and certified safe. At the vaccination site, you can check blood pressure and know your diabetes risk status. Children aged 0 to 23 months will receive childhood vaccines and screened for malnutrition. After vaccination, continue to adhere to COVID-19 prevention protocols. For more information, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng or call 0700-220-1122. This message is from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
Dear customer, link your Airtel number to your national identification number today. Here are easy ways you can do it. Dial *121*1# on your Airtel line and follow the prompts on the screen. Type in your 11-digit government-approved NIN number. You will receive a confirmation message to confirm your entry. You can also visit www.airtel.com.ng/NIN to link your phone number to your NIN. If you do not know your NIN, simply dial *346# to get it. No stress, no wahala.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
I dey enjoy Nollywood film, Orisun, PBO, AMC be my best channel. But ST Nollywood Plus, they show the latest Nollywood blockbuster on top classic bouquet. How I want to watch am?
My pikin dey enjoy 5 children's channels, but you won't add DreamWorks on top am.
I be telenovela lover and I like ST Novella E and Starlight. But I hear say the series on ST Novella E Plus on top classic bouquet, the totori person pass wetin I dey see now. And I wan watch am. Sure, I go need pay 800 naira extra.
From September 1, Star Times, they summer you better package. But no fear, we no increase price. Join this offer. Make basic bouquet subscribers just pay for 1 month and then go fit to watch 3 ogbonge extra channels from Classic Bouquet. This awoof never finish. Recharge Classic or Super Bouquet for 1 month and you fit be one of the 400 lucky people them. We go win smartphone. Terms and conditions stay shallow. More value, same price. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
A new edition of TV Guide is out exclusively with Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State.
Since assuming office, our rescue administration has pursued the path of peace and reconciliation and restored confidence among people of different ethnic, religious, and political persuasions. Peace is back on the plateau. We are building world-class infrastructure in roads and opening up opportunities for innovation.
The edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from entertainment, economy, sports, media, politics, family, and lots more. Pick up a copy and keep abreast with issues and trending features within our space. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and to begin our conversation on the menace of vandalism and the need to secure critical national infrastructure, let's take this background report put together by our correspondent Abdusalam Jibrin.
Across the country, the current security challenge has necessitated increased advocacy for the protection of national assets across various sectors, including power, transportation, water resources, oil and gas, telecommunications, among others. Attacks and vandalism of critical infrastructure leave devastating consequences that threaten national economy and host communities. Once upon a time, not a day goes by without the threat of attacks and actual attacks on oil pipelines and installations. But in recent times, there have been a shift to other sectors like transportation. For instance, there have been an upsurge of rail track vandalism in parts of the country where railways are found. Experts maintain that rail track vandalism constitutes a major setback to government transport sector reforms. In the month of May this year, there were about 5 instances of rail tracks and clips removed by hoodlums across a stretch of kilometers. It was also in that same month that the activities of a syndicate involving public officials and a Chinese national were brought to light. The syndicate turned the rail line crisscrossing Nasarawa State en route to Benue State into a gold mine by dismantling the parts for sale. A few days ago, men of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps intercepted a heavy-duty truck in Kiana local government area of Nasarawa State, conveying about 970 railway sleepers to an unknown destination. The Nigerian Railway Corporation has also announced that over 100 persons are currently in detention at the Railway Police Command in Lagos State over vandalism of the railway tracks. While security agencies have been arresting rail line vandals and criminals, some experts advocate deployment of technology which would alert those in charge anytime a track is being vandalized. In addition to this, what more must be done to adequately protect the nation's railways and other critical national assets? Guests on the program will give their perspectives shortly.
Thank you very much, Abdusalam Jibril, for that backgrounder. Now, we have with us in the studios here to discuss this topic, and of course, we have other guests who will be joining us later on. First, let's welcome Nnamdi Nwunyi. He is the Acting Deputy Commandant General, Crisis Management at the National Headquarters of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, popularly referred to as Civil Defense. Acting Deputy Commandant General, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
Also here with us in the studios is the Force Public Relations Officer, Commissioner of Police, Frank Mba. CP Frank, delighted to have you with us this morning.
Thank you and good morning, Nigerians.
And we also have joining us another familiar guest. He's Professor Etanebi Alemika. He's He is a professor of criminology and member Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, Jumai, the Zoom connection, of course, well, it's been sorted out, I think, from the end of the guest. Once we have the Zoom sorted out, then, of course, we'll have them join us for this conversation. Let's begin with the Acting Deputy Commandant General of the Civil Defense Corps. As we said at the beginning of this program, we have focused on the vandalism of critical public infrastructure, but it appears that there is no let-up in the activities of the criminal elements. And as you saw there in the clip by our correspondent who are giving us the background, just last week, 970, that's nearly 1,000 railway sleepers were again picked up by your team. Give us a sense of the scale of this problem and how widespread it probably is across the country.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that the act enabling the Corps to exercise this function of taking care of critical infrastructure and national assets came out from the 2007 amendment of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Act. And that saddled the Corps with the responsibility as a lead agency to protect those key infrastructures of government that is dislocation, is disruption, is destruction can lead to social upheaval, can also affect national security and the economic vitality of the nation. Having said that, I will say that the vandalization of national critical infrastructure, particularly with Nigerian Railway Corporation, is almost widespread, particularly in the southern part of the nation. From our intelligence gathering, we discovered that probably because most of those rail tracks have not been put into effective use all this while. And secondly, because we discovered that it's kind of like economic sabotage, where the jobless youths feel that it's being that there's no train going on those tracks, there's a mind for them to go there, take up those sleepers, and dispose them at their own cost, which unfortunately is so abysmal compared to the cost of procurement by the federal government. So I would say it's widespread, particularly in the southern part, but it still extends down to even to the northern part of the country, but not as much as in the southern part of the federation. That's
Indeed. Okay. You know, it's a discussion that is ongoing on Good Morning Nigeria, like Kingsley said earlier before we started our conversation, that it's a topic we've discussed on and on this program to bring awareness to the dangers of, you know, vandalizing this critical infrastructure. Let's look at CP Frank, but what has changed from our last conversation on vandalization of national infrastructure and national assets? What has changed? Has there been, you know, series of arrests and prosecution to stop these nefarious activities?
Well, once again, good morning, Nigerians. Incidentally, I wasn't part of the discussions during the last conversation, but I've also monitored the trend and the pattern of vandalism within our critical national infrastructure space. And I also agree with you and with NTA in particular when it comes to the issues of willful damage, destruction, organized crimes committed around the pilfering of our rail system, our rail tracks and sleepers. And I'm sure in previous conversations you will also have tried to look at probably some of the underlying factors which sometimes are very numerous. I mean, my brother from the civil defense have touched on issues of joblessness or unemployment or poverty. But again, I'm one of those who have said very strongly that these things are not excuse for anyone to go vandalizing public assets. The dangers are so many. Apart from the fact that they distort the aesthetics of the city, these are critical assets at a period when you are trying to deal with poverty. When you continue to destroy this, you're actually recycling poverty. You are not helping anyone. You are recycling underdevelopment. You are stalling the onward march towards modernization and development and industrialization. And then there is also the danger of possible injuries dealt resulting from some of this. But again, I think we also need to know that this is not just a Nigerian issue. It seems to be a global challenge. In South Africa, for example, in one single time, 10 whole kilometers of a rail track were entirely vandalized. In fact, the cost to replace that was put at about $2.3 million US. This year alone, the South African Transport Ministry is budgeting 1.9 billion rands. That's estimated to be about 300 and something million dollars to actually put back their rail track system that were vandalized, especially during the pandemic, during the sit-at-home. And that gives credence to his position that when a rail line is idle, it actually gives room for vandalism. When a rail line is not in active use, that's when a lot of vandalism, a lot of stealing, a lot of destruction takes place around it. And to complicate matters, once the vandalism begins to take place, once the destruction, the stealing begins to take place, and is not quickly fixed, then you create more rooms for it to go on. And so what happens is the thieves come around, thief A just comes and do some damage and some stealings. And then if it is not quickly fixed, thief B sees an opportunity and is like, oh, someone has already started doing something here, I can as well continue. And then thief A returns and like, oh, it's like this has become a soft target. And then it continues. So the challenge for NRC, the Nigerian Railway Corporation, is also to be perpetually vigilant. The earlier these things are fixed, as soon as the theft takes place, the stronger deterrent you put in place to also stop further vandalism on that particular track. In UK, for example, there was a time the Birmingham area suffered 36 hours of train disruption arising from metal theft. Again, so we see that these things happen all around, but again, for us as a developing country and for us looking at the fact that we are just beginning to embrace the rail system, looking at the fact that there is a new drive towards the modernization of our track system, we must not allow this to happen. Otherwise, we can never move forward at all.
Well, thank you very much, CP Frankumba. Well, you say we must never allow this to happen, but it is happening. Which is why we are discussing it and why.
And on a light scale.
Yes, and you have also given some indications as to what can be done. We earlier indicated that we'll be having the guests join us via Zoom. We already have them now. Let's welcome the Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Engineer Fidet Ohiria, is a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria. Engineer Ohiria, pleasure to have you with us. We are discussing again one of those unpleasant experiences of the Railway Corporation.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
All right. Also, another familiar guest, Professor Etanibi Olemika, is a professor of criminology and member of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. Professor Olemika, once pleasure to have you with us this morning. If we can see you on the screen.
Thank you, Kingsley.
All right, Prof. Good to see you. Let's take first Engineer Fidet Ohiria. Engineer Fidet Ohiria, you were with us in the Abuja studios when last we took on this subject matter. Again, there is no let-up as the criminal elements continue to attack your infrastructure. Now, tell us what the scale of the problem is at the moment, and in particular, are these new tracks that are being attacked and looted, or they are old, disused tracks?
What I would say is that attempt has been made on the new track, both on the Takbe-Wari, Lagos Ibadan, and Abuja Kaduna. Last time we discussed, I told you about 30,000 clips of the Kaduna Abuja have been replaced due to vandalization. So what that has not happened in the modernized track or the new track is that they're removing rail and sleepers, because the sleepers are made of concrete sleepers, not steel, unlike the narrow gauge that is made of steel sleepers that are light to remove. So what they do is that they concentrate on the soft spots, like the sleepers are light. But going forward, the Nigerian Railway and the Nigerian government have decided that all our sleepers should be made of concrete, and it should be of continuous track. That is, it's not the one you fish plate. At every 30 meters you fish plate, and people just lose it and remove it. But however, we now have a continuous rail track system that if you want to remove, you have to bring your welding machine to cut it, which makes it more difficult. I think the issue here is that the people who are removing the rail are not the patrons. That's why I'll be telling my brothers in the security. So we must get to where the patrons that are patronizing these people that are removing the track. It's good you see a trailer on the road, you stop them and and we recover the rail and sleepers. But effort should be made to see where are they going to and where have they been taken into. Not until we do that, I think it's going to be a serious problem. Last time I saw the district manager, the NSCDC commandant in Nasarawa, addressing press with trailer, 930 trailers. So I think the best thing would have been to see and track them to know where they are taking them to. They have been reading. What we discovered that most of those things vandalized are still being kept close by in the warehouses, and sometimes in an attempt to move them, they will be caught on their way to their various factory or industry they are taking them to. But no, the only industry caught in Plateau was charged for theft, and it was just given 200,000 to pay 200,000 and go home. Whereas in our I think in our legal system, you can be sentenced to 21 years for vandalizing government property, and because they are prosecuting, and they should assist by making sure that the correct section of the law are applied instead of just touching this thing.
That we seem to have lost him there, but when he returns, we'll be able to respond to the question Kingsley posed to him. Let's now go to Professor Alemika. Professor Alemika, this is a huge loss to Nigeria as a developing country, keeping in mind that the railway, transportation has been out for quite more than 2 decades or so. What kind of mindset would somebody have as a Nigerian, a patriotic Nigerian, to go out there and destroy, infrastructure put in place by government to alleviate, their lifestyle and, bring ease to doing business through these rail tracks? Is it a psychological thing, or are they just criminals?
Thank you. I'm not sure it's a psychological problem. I think it's some degree of alienation. And we must be dealing with different caliber of people here. And as Mr. Uja has said, we must be thinking at the first level, the patron, the criminal syndicate, who have created, in a very creative way, markets for government properties that have been vandalized. So that's the patron level. Then the second level, of course, are those people who do not see the values of these infrastructure in their own daily lives, and rather see it as a target of making money to improve their own livelihood. So I think that is the problem, the disconnect between those infrastructure and some group of citizens, and of course some criminal syndicates looking for source of material and then using this other group. So in that case, I think Uja's point is very important. Who are the ultimate patrons if you really want to solve the problem? And for the other, you take an electricity into a community, people go there to steal the transformer. These will be the people who don't have electricity in their homes. Those who are stealing railway sleepers are likely to be those who don't think they will ever have cause, to use the services of railway. And of course, at that point, they cannot, in fact, understand the implication that even they cannot use it, their relations might be using it. And removing it can cause such tragic accident in which hundreds of people may lose their lives. So I think is this whole lack of understanding of the nature of those infrastructure and what they do to impact on all citizens' life. Because transportation, for example, influences all parts of livelihood. It's not just moving from one point to another. It affects all aspects of our livelihood, from security to welfare to production. So there's need for a lot of awareness, but there's need also for a lot of intelligence that will produce those who are patronizing them.
Professor Alemika, let me still stay with you and ask, is the country, and therefore what we are discussing, are we just at the mercy of these criminal elements? I'm asking this question against the background of what appears to be a lingering challenge for well over 3 decades now. There is, of course, the attack that we find from time to time on crude oil pipelines, on refined petroleum pipelines, which is not what we are focusing on. But on rail, if you remember, in Lagos, thieves just started by taking out the aluminum crash barriers on the overhead bridges. And after a while, we never saw those aluminum crash barriers anymore, because what they did with them was to take them to smelters, and then they converted them to frying pans and jewelry and all kinds of things. The crash barriers that we used to have made of aluminum on our expressways, Lagos, Ibadan, and of course Shagamu or Benin, over the years they were vandalized. Of course, some of them were lost to accidents. And suddenly, it's now the rail tracks. For a number of years, we were all complaining that our railway system was dead. When the railway system was literally dead, we were not hearing of the vandalism of disused rail tracks. Now that the railway system is being revitalized, suddenly there appears to be, I don't know where the incentive is coming from, we are seeing all of these widespread attacks. What is at play here, Prof?
Yes, I think, again, we are dealing with two classes of people. We are dealing with criminal syndicates with economic motives, and we are dealing with criminal syndicates with political motives. As of now, we are not distinguishing them. We are not even distinguishing the products that they are targeting. So I think what we need to do, back to the question of intelligence, is to have intelligence to be able to classify both the market, that means the product that are being attacked in terms of their political or economic objectives. So it's not just one incentive.
Well, as you can see there, there's a freeze on Professor Alemika. When we return to him, he will have the opportunity of taking up that question. Now, back to the studios here, the Acting Deputy Commandant General. Well, you listened to both Prof and then also to the Managing Director of the Railway Corporation, Engineer Fidel Okiria. Tell us, say for rail infrastructure, whether disused or currently in use or being revitalized, because part of what we are seeing is not just the construction of the standard gauge, but also the revitalization of the narrow gauge. How much of a policing challenge does the civil defense have with respect to this infrastructure?
Well, thank you very much. The challenge is quite enormous, though it's not insurmountable. I would say that what is required mainly has to do with intelligence, as the Prof has said. Intelligence plays a very key role. However, we are in a better position to assess such intelligence because of the nature of our organization. We have our people living in the citizenry who don't have barracks. We also have the volunteer aspect of the corps that are volunteering information, and we also regulate the activities of private guard companies. All these are veritable tools of gathering information in order for us to do our job. However, one will not fail to mention the issue of lack of equipment, high-tech equipment. In fact, the budgetary allocations annually cannot take care of the challenges we are facing in the field. One cannot, even if the whole total members of the corps are deployed, it cannot even take up the whole lines, to talk of other critical infrastructure we're in charge of. So it has to do more of use of sophisticated high technology in monitoring these rail tracks, and those things don't come cheap. And therefore, I will use this platform to even make an appeal to the key stakeholders in this this critical infrastructure, and also the government, and also goodwill in Nigeria to kind of set up a security trust fund for the easy procurement of some of these expensive equipment which the paucity of budgetary allocation cannot carry on. So I think the challenges have always been that of, because we have the manpower, we have men trained in various fields to cater for some of these emergencies that come up, or even preventing from happening at all. But the major challenge we're having is in terms of having the necessary wherewithal to handle what is seen on ground.
I'm sorry to leap in here.
Okay.
You know, I mean, everybody knows that there is insufficiency in terms of funding for all our needs, as it were. But the guests on the program today have talked about, look, the patrons, who are the end users, who are the end receivers. Will it require high-tech equipment to ascertain who the receivers of these stolen iron sleepers are? Let's use the example of what happened last week when the truck was apprehended, conveying 970 sleepers. I don't know how much they're going to sell that for. The truck was abandoned. No one was found in the vehicle. But the vehicle has enough intelligence of its own.
That's a registration number.
It is registered. It has a chassis number.
Let me come into that. Actually, that truck in question was heading to Abuja from Benue State. And from information we gathered on that preliminary investigation so far carried, 2 men were arrested inside the truck. But on interrogation, we discovered they were just hikers, people that were traveling on their way to Lagos. But one of them confessed to us that he joined that truck because he came from a particular spot owned by a soft drink manufacturing company, and that he felt that he can take free ride to Lagos. But the driver told him that they are stopping in Abuja. Meanwhile, we know that without those patronage from these smelter companies and all those people that deal on scraps, such business would not be going on. And we have sent out our intelligence, and we are doing a lot of jobs on the ground, which I will not be able to say here, but very soon most of these things will be nipped in the bud, because we have been able to identify some of the areas. We have seen people are taking some of those things. They go there to use it and melt them, turn them to billets, turn them to rods. And also even this manhole cover, I don't know, they still supply it into the market. So these are some of the intelligence we have come up with, and we are very soon will give Nigerians cause to know actually what is going on and those behind them.
Okay.
But having said that, one will also rule out political sabotage. You know, as the resolution is coming in, some people feel maybe this government in power may be using this as one of the campaign tools to show that they are really working for the country. And we have also known that some people might, out of just to make sure that they don't have anything the government can hold on to sabotage the country. So these are some of the things we have put on our platform, and we're working on them to really get to the root of what is done going on in the country.
CP Frank, but let's look at attempts to arrest some of these vandals. There's a market that buys all these vandalized, items. How do we use technology, as some experts are saying, to be able to track these people who vandalize the rail lines or any other infrastructure in Nigeria? And when are we expecting a huge arrest so that, it will be a lesson to those who still do it?
Okay, thank you. First of all, before I go into your question, I want to make intervention on two key issues that have been discussed by the last speaker. The last two speakers, Prof actually did a very good job giving us more like a psychoanalysis of the criminals or some of those who might be carrying out this vandalism. Some of them, he categorized them as those who are purely in the business of making money,
Yes.
organized criminals. He looked at possible issues of sabotage. In addition to this, I'm also looking at people you could actually categorize as those with misplaced anger. And there are people who have misplaced anger or who are just out there to commit mischief. And when you are in the business of making money and you can find such person, then it becomes easy for you to use such persons to actually deliver the goods.
I don't understand misplaced anger.
Let me just tell you a story. A senior colleague of ours in this Abuja, a senior police officer who once worked at Zone 7. Zone 7 has its headquarters in Abuja. Some time ago, they arrested somebody who had actually removed about 100 manholes for different parts of Abuja.
Manhole covers.
Manhole covers. And then piled up these manhole covers in his house. And when they got intelligence, they went to the house with search warrants, cordoned the entire place, and then it was a very smooth, easy operation. They arrested the man, and they recovered close to 100 manhole covers. And when they asked him what he was doing with those covers, he said he's not doing anything with them. And they said, why? What's your motive? He said he has no intention of selling them. He is just removing them. What's your problem? He said the government has not been fair to him.
That's no excuse.
And when he tried to complain, they told him there's nothing he can do, and he's trying to show that there's something he can do. And then they asked him, Do you ever think of other innocent persons like yourself? What if someone is jogging early in the morning and the person falls into it, into the hole that you've uncovered, and he said he doesn't care, and that how he wished one of the ministers or one of the high government officials could just be the one that will fall into the hole. And so when you get this kind of person, for example, and you are a business person, you are one of those organized criminals, and you get a man with this kind of mindset, then it becomes very easy for you to say, okay, you don't just have to steal them and keep them here. Steal them and supply them to me, I'll buy. And so sometimes what you see playing out is actually a mixed bag of so many things happening. And I can't agree less with the MD of Nigerian Railway Corporation that we must go for the big
end users.
The big end users. In a recent case we did at STS, the Special Tactical Squad, we followed some of these vandals all the way to Cross River. We arrested some Chinese persons. That case is currently under prosecution. We did not just get those who stole the items. We did not just get those who transported the items, but we actually got the end users. And those products were actually meant for a steel factory. And this brings me back to the issue of how do we use also other non-law enforcement approaches in actually tackling this. Because sometimes when there are problems like this, we just think about policing, we think about law enforcement, we think about security, we think about surveillance, but there could also be other non-law enforcement approaches that we can actually use in dealing with these issues. For instance, in the United Kingdom, they have what they call the Scrap Metal Dealers Act. Scrap Metal Dealers Act. What does this law do? This law essentially seeks to control and regulate trade in scrap metals. Scrap metal is a multi-million naira industry. And if you look around Nigeria, most of these stolen items end up, they sell them as scraps, in quote. And they take them to these factories. And some of these factories are all well known. They are located all around our country. And most of them are actually run by foreigners, the Indians, the Chinese, and then a few Nigerians. And so how do we regulate this country, this industry? How do we regulate the activities of the dealers on scrap metals? And I don't think, I'm not aware of any law in this country that regulates trade in scrap metals. And so this is one way to go. The NRC can actually push for that. The Ministry of Transportation can push for that. Any of our lawmakers who feel highly motivated can also introduce a bill and push for that. If you do that, you will be able to regulate that. You will be able to license the scrap dealers. You will be able to have a situation where if you must sell scraps, you must establish that they were obtained, they were not obtained through criminal acts or criminal processes or processes that were tainted. And if we do this, it also becomes easier for us in the law enforcement community to also monitor the activities of the scrap the end user. So you can conduct random checks in some of these factories, for example, and ask them to open up their registers and check and see, okay, the last batch of the scrap metals that you are recycling, where did you get them from? How did you get them? Who are your suppliers? Who are, and so for me, beyond technology, beyond surveillance, beyond the use of spy drones, beyond the use of integrated area surveillance system, beyond the use of deployment of police, beyond the use of strengthening the policing component of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, beyond deploying police horses to patrol some of the isolated areas where you have the rail tracks, we must also find ways of regulating industries that deals with some of these products that are stolen from our rails.
CP Franco, thank you very much for the suggestion that you have made. Let's reconnect Engineer Fide Tuhiria, Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. Engineer Fide, well, we lost you at some point while you were still trying to explain to us what challenges that you face. But I do remember that as our guests, when we took on this subject matter some months ago, you did say that the Nigerian Railway Corporation itself has an organized system, a protocol for dealing with disused items, let's say scrap metal now, and the appropriate dealers. So maybe you may need to lead us through again how the Nigerian Railway deals with scrap metal. And in the light of the frequency of the vandalism of your rail tracks and so on and so forth, have you tried to reach out to scrap metal dealers or the light steel industries that are probably, you know, receivers of these slippers and other scrap metals?
Okay. Yes, thank you. In Nigerian Railway Corporation, there is a method.
All right, again, that's the challenge of some of this, Zoom connections. Professor Alemika, if you're okay, via Zoom, maybe you want to continue from where you left off. I was asking whether we are now at the mercy of these vandals, you know, who are tearing up our national assets and infrastructure, and what can be done so that the state truly exercises its power.
Thank you. I think Frank Umba, the PPRO, had actually gone in some of the direction I was going to suggest. First, like I said, what can we do in terms of value? Why would somebody who says there is no government presence in his or her area attack the little one that is available? Why would a businessman, rather than source his or her product from a genuine licit angle, do so through illegal means? I think there is some kinds of level of value that does not support security, does not support development, and does not support, development of the country in a broad sense. What can we do when we have this disconnect at the level of values? I think there are a number of agencies that exist, like national orientation agencies, because there are people who are aware that these things are happening, but because they are partially ignorant, they just think it's some waste there that some clever people are taking advantage of, and they really don't feel connected to it. So I think a lot of people, when they are aware of the consequences of these, what we are calling vandalism, will probably become local police officer in quote in policing some of these facilities. So we can do a lot in terms of sensitizing citizens again, find mechanism for reconnecting them, and of course ensuring that those, when it passes through communities, we find a way of having them own as part of their own local access, not just national asset. That the next train station where they sell banana, where they sell some other melon, that if the train cannot come to those places, They will not sell their melon, they will not sell their maize, they will not sell their other things. So I think a lot can be done in that area. But I think in the long run, we still would need a mechanism where we can prevent, and I think part of what Frank was talking about is also to be able to prevent through law, creating a legal norm. But I think we can also ensure that even the infrastructure themselves have within them some kinds of technology for surveillance. And I think that's the way most countries are going. You find a rail line, there must be somewhere some technology that allows us to monitor, just like pipeline, that we're able to monitor that there is a tampering going on. There is the loop of transportation of the rail track is being affected at some point, and then have special forces or special agencies that can immediately respond. So I think there is a lot to do in terms of even having a plan for defending our critical assets. I think that is what is currently the policy for developing our critical national asset beyond tidbits across security agencies. I think we, in the light of what is happening, we need a much more robust, a much more rigorously defined national asset prevention, threat prevention and control. So we also, I think we cannot overemphasize technology, not just on the for security agencies, but implanted in those infrastructures themselves. And I think that's not area we're not doing now. So I think it's a whole thing we can do. To your question whether we are helpless, I'm afraid we are helpless for now until we develop the capacity to do, to be able to prevent, until we develop capacity to be able to appropriately engage in surveillance, intelligence, and then a response. Until then, I think we'll be going around what we call a criminology displacement. You drive them from Abuja, Kaduna Road. Of course, they move to Kaduna, Kano. You drive them there, they go to Kano, Maduguri. And I think that's part of the problem we are seeing, both in terms of market, I mean, the types of crime that are being committed and where they are being committed.
Okay, Prof, I'm still going to stay with you. If they can vandalize the rail tracks, don't you think they will vandalize the CCTV or any other technology, object that is there to, survey for surveillance and on the rail tracks?
Yes, they will at the initial stage. I think our problem is we also give up very quickly. Abuja is supposed to be covered by CCTV. I'm told it didn't work well. There was some corruption associated with it, and we just hands off. I say we shouldn't continue in plugging those problems that we have seen. These problems are global, as I think CP Umba said, though not at the scale that we have it. They solve it because there is continuity, there is consistency in pursuing it, but we get discouraged. I always say in Nigeria we have very short attention span. We try something, it doesn't work, immediately we give up. An agency is inefficient. Rather than fix the agency, we create another one and then split resources, which was not enough for the previous one, among multiple agencies. So yes, it will happen at the initial stage, but when those are able, when it is efficient, able to do something about 2 or 3 times, other people will look around and say, oh, maybe this thing is even around that I don't see it. So at the initial stage, yes, there'll be a problem. But if we keep going on and persistent at it, it will yield fruit at some point.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Alemika. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Back to the studios. CP Francoba, I want to come back to you and let's deal with 2 aspects. I'm wondering, again, this is based on mere observation. Do we sometimes experience, if you like, jurisdictional neglect in the policing of our critical national infrastructure? Now it is, by law, the role of the civil defense to protect critical infrastructure. But what would be the attitude of other law enforcement agents? If I were to get out of the studios now, drive in my car, and begin to just pick up manhole covers in different parts of the city. Chances are that other law enforcement officers who will say, including the police, will say maybe he's doing that one. That one as civil defense work. Maybe, you know, it's not really part of my. Does that compound the challenge that we are faced with? Does that also embolden criminal elements? I'm sure you must have heard about this in the course of your career. Sometimes street lights, criminal elements will just go, take out the wires, and they now go and smelt the copper in it for other purposes. And nobody touches them, and everybody is driving past, including law enforcement officers who are driving past.
I think your question is big and huge, and it's not just about the law enforcement community. I think Prof also touched on this when he talked about the disconnect between the citizens and the government. There is this lethargy between that exists amongst a lot of citizens. And again, I am probably not the right person to do this analysis, so I'm just going to touch on it very mildly. But the truth really is, when citizens are struggling with a lot of basic needs, sometimes they don't have time to deal with those noble issues. And so if a citizen wakes up this morning and the only thing in his mind is how to get his next meal, and then he's going past the road and he notices some things, no matter how much you try to tell him, if you see something, say something, he might not be inclined to say something even though he has seen something, because at the very top of his priority is his next meal. But beyond all this also is, what sense of civic orientation have we had growing up? And how also have our politicians been able to present themselves as role models to us? And that's why sometimes when you see younger people vandalize or steal public property, and it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter whether they are bridge railings, whether they are things that has to do with power, or things that has to do with petroleum, or they just feel like, okay, the politician next door have stolen so much, the local government chairman has stolen so much, the minister has stolen so much, the director has stolen so much, and so this is the only access I have, and this is the only one I can take. So this is my own, I'm just taking a bit out of the national cake. And so he or she does not even say this as if he's doing something bad or something criminal or something condemnable. And so these are things that we need to work on. And again, the National Orientation Agency has got a lot of roles to play. But beyond the National Orientation Agency, we need our leaders to also live what they preach. And that's the only way to go. Leaders must also be true to their calling. They must present themselves as that perfect, true role models that they want the rest of us, the followers, the rest of the boys and girls on the street to also look up to. And so corruption, the larger picture, the multiplier effects of this corruption, and then the copycat syndrome of everybody saying, okay, everybody is stealing, so, and they don't even see it as stealing. For those of us who are in the core law enforcement business, we've arrested bank robbers. And when you interrogate them, they say, Oga, why not they treat us like this? We know thief can steal money. We know thief win his money. We've not stolen anybody's money. We stole from the bank.
But that's people's money now.
Okay, that's what you know. So they feel we not thief anybody money. Na government money we thief.
Money with the bank, no be government money now.
That is the mentality. So for them, they see themselves as noble thieves. Noble in the sense that they have not stolen from private citizens. They've been so nice that they left all the private persons unattacked and they went to the bank to steal. Some of them are even intelligent enough to tell you during interrogation that this money are even covered by insurance. So, God, why are you people giving us wahala?
They are intelligent enough to know that.
Yes. So the point I'm trying to make is this: we need to work on our national orientation. We need to, and honestly speaking, politicians need to just turn things around. They need to play the game right. They need to stop sending mixed messages and then expect the younger ones to. So, some of the Yahoo boys we've arrested and prosecuted, they've also had that kind of mentality. Oga, we no fit thief oil money, we no fit thief from government, we dey thief from foreigners, we leave all our people, we dey collect money from Oyibo, so may una leave us. A crime is a crime, and we must deal with these crimes the way they should be dealt with. On the issue of jurisdictional complexities, I think that is not really the problem. The problem, again, for us is when you are in a situation where, for instance, you get a distressful. If I'm sitting here now and I have just one patrol team, and I get two distress calls, and one of them is saying that there is a kidnap going on, an active kidnap situation going on, or an active armed robbery operation going on, and there's somebody is trying to vandalize a street light, I'm going to deploy my resources and access to the kidnap situation, to the armed robbery situation, to the rape scene, because I in as much as I identify the huge implication of the theft of the manhole covers or the vandalism of the street light, I am going to manage my resources in such a way that I am able to save life instantly. And that's why in the police we created the Railway Police Command, which is essentially saddled with the responsibility of working with the Nigerian Railway Corporation. And I think the MD of NRC will attest to the fact that with the growth, with what we're seeing in the rail development currently, the successive inspectors general of police have also taken measures to strengthen the Nigerian Railway Corporation, increase their manpower, deploy more assets. But both the Transport Ministry and the Railway Corporation also need to invest in security. Let me tell you, in everywhere in the world, the global best practices, you do what we call dual investment. As you are investing in infrastructure, it doesn't matter whether it's transport, it doesn't matter whether it's aviation, it doesn't matter the kind of infrastructure. But as you're investing in infrastructure, you are at the same time simultaneously investing in the security, the protection of that infrastructure. That's one thing we must learn to do. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, we don't ever do it. That's why Kingsley will buy a car of 50 million naira, and Kingsley will find it difficult to take a comprehensive insurance. Kingsley will find it difficult to just put a tracking equipment that is less than 500,000 in the car. That's why we build a big mansion in Maitama. Jume will build a big mansion in Maitama, and Jume will now go and build one small space and put his security men there. More like putting them in a prison, in a chicken hole. Because Jume do not consider security a big issue. From the point when she was planning the building of the house, he never thought about that. And that's why you have massive estates all around this country. And then at the end of the day, they will have a container as a police post.
Yes.
And that's the mindset. So it doesn't matter what we're doing, but whatever infrastructure we're developing, particularly critical national infrastructure, we must think security. As we are investing in those infrastructure, we must simultaneously, instantaneously, also be investing in security for the protection of those infrastructure.
Indeed, we need to invest. Yes.
We have to thank him, but also to quickly issue a disclaimer to the examples that he cited that these were metaphors. Because I heard him say Kingsley will buy a car worth 50 million naira.
Build a mansion. Amen to that.
I will join you saying
I say amen to that.
But that car issue is not one. Otherwise, somebody will see me on the street and I say, "This is my house, 50 million naira to buy a car."
We'll take a break right now. When we return, our conversation continues. Don't go away.
The center is purposely established in order to provide these services that are examinations, medical examinations and investigations that were not provided for in Kano as well as the entire Northwest region. It's equipped with modern technological equipment in terms of radiological services. We have MRI 1.5 Tesla, we have digital X-ray as well as 4D ultrasound equipment. The importance of the center cannot be overemphasized. Just within 1 year, the center attended to thousands and numerous patients as well as medical examinations. NKDC is established in order also to provide these healthcare facilities as a discounted price.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You won't go shake your body. Instead, they make it calm down. Eat the farm say sabi. You want to grow 6 packs in a day. I beg you not to pass your power. You want to show yourself,
Whatever your size, find it with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# now to get the plan that suits you. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Dear compatriots, our country can be as great as we want.
Let us all commit ourselves to its greatness.
We must be willing to set aside our differences, unite and stay as one.
In our expansive landmass, human and material resources, and plurality lies our strength.
Let our challenges lead us to rediscover our common ground. But together, let's find solutions.
This will take some time, so it requires patience, tolerance, and forgiveness from every one of us.
Let all hands come on deck to protect and transform our country.
Let us unite and see each other not as adversaries, but as brothers and sisters.
Together, we can build a better Nigeria for ourselves and for the next generations.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with support from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's see if we can get back Fide Tuhiria, the engineer who is, of course, the managing director of Nigeria Railway Corporation. Engineer Fide, I don't know, we've not had great joy from your Zoom connection today, but let's hear from you now. What can be done? What is your relationship with scrap metal dealers? What is your relationship with law enforcement agencies? What is your relationship with just seeking to boost the security of your rail infrastructure?
Yeah. Thank you. I think because of the rain, the communication is getting so bad. Quickly, we have a very good relationship with the Nigerian police and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. And not only that, a team was set up with, I think, the General Security for Rail Protection, and we're a member of that team. You see, we talk about enabling law, enabling that, but human beings are the people to implement the laws. And when any small opportunity comes, what I've discovered or what I've learned that Nigeria want to benefit materially, not knowing that it may end up affecting them either directly or indirectly. Why am I saying that? We have arrested not less than 200. If I say people, I mean different incidents occurring of vandalization. And to date, apart from that one in just that we said we concluded in court, others have been asking for updates from the various. We have arrested this. We have spent money to go and investigate. What is the update in the investigation? I think we have to set our minds to be a little bit patriotic to achieve meaningful results. I'm sorry to say that, but I've tried even bent backwards to ensure that I support the team sent to us. And the first major thing is that anybody posted to railway look at it as a punishment, either officer or men. They look at it as a punishment. No matter the incentive you give to them, it's not compared to what they would get if they were in the state command or doing roadblocks. So that is a major thing. And we try to encourage them, but at least assisting them with transport, accommodation. But I discovered that it's not enough. So, and as he said, my brother, the CP, it's your state of mind. It's not what Mr. A or Mr. B is doing that will affect your life. So it is your target goal in life that will affect what you contribute to the society. If whether you deploy technology, there are instances who put CCTV, and CCTVs are the first target to be vandalized. Especially they record the wire. By the time you try to trace the wire or the cable, they remove the camera, and you repeat it again. You repeat the same thing happen, and by the time you are able to catch one person and send to the police, or you will never get the end. Either they go to court, and by the time they get to court, they get lawyers, and even the person who is passing judgment in the court is compromised. Everything returned to zero. So we should, whether we want to make a nation of Nigeria or not, because it's so painful and it's disheartening because this vandalization is something that's really opened up with a sort of can that people are struggling to even arrest the culprit. Not that because they want to solve the problem, it's about that because they want to benefit from the process. So, but we will continue to educate people because the ray you remove, you don't know whether it's your next of kin that will be on that train, and God forbid, and there is an accident leading to casualty. So we will try our best and able to encourage the team working with us, and at the same time, we will not fail to tell them the truth and the position. You see, now, before we sell any scrap, we advertise, and people, as of today, we have done, I think 3 times advertise that we only have one state company, which is called car industry, that have a factory between Offa and Ilorin and one at I think Ijebu-Ode.
Okay, Mr. Fidet, if I might come in, you know, Mr. Frank Uba talked about the National Orientation Agency raising awareness, you know, for people to, you know, the threats this vandalization poses to, you know, transportation of lives and property, you know, we're using the rail line. What level of awareness are you raising for these vandals to understand the danger of what they are doing? Apart from the National Orientation Agency, do you have any jingle, you know, that goes on TV, radio, and all that to educate our people that these things that is being put for them is for their own good and they need it for survival?
We've done that. I think every human being knows that when you have a good rail, it will impact on you. But we discovered that the more you are telling the people, the more exposed they become on the negative side. The negative side. It's an irony that I think most of us don't look at the positive side. They try to take advantage of the negative side. The more enlightening, the more exposure you give to them, the more they try to take advantage of the negative side. That's what I've discovered. When we were coping this thing within ourselves, immediately we went on air. It became a national business. So it's sort of a confusion situation that when you educate people, this is the right way to go. They not turn around and since you have brought it to my knowledge, and they always want to find that aspect that will benefit them individually and not the nation. So that is an irony that we see. We need to not just going on air telling people. We have gone as far as engaging community. I think last time I appeared here, I said even the community we engaged now set themselves as an allocating committee instead of the protecting, that we are giving them incentive to protect the rail that pass through their community. Instead of that, they turn themselves to a committee and say, before you take, we will tell you where you want to vandalize. We have engaged vigilante, and we are still engaging them. And this thing come at a cost. If like we are talking about now, we are talking about over 4,000 length of track. The old track 3,500. The new one getting close to 1,000 now. So to police the community, and nobody just say, okay, I will come out and do it because I'm interested in Nigeria. Everybody first is that what is in it for me. By the time you engage them, and at the time it's okay, I think we have gotten there. I don't think your service required again. You see that the tempo of vandalization will go up. So I think the best way is for us to have enough rolling stock and occupy the track, so that if we can operate with every 30 minutes, so that if there's even an attempt to go and vandalize, before you settle down to set up your wedding or cutting machine, a train will come. Our staff are not also excused from this thing. They connive and they form a syndicate, and instead of them, because we are supposed to have in every 6 kilometers about 7 railmen patrolling the track. So what we've been trying to deal with our staff internally by ensuring any parts that have been vandalized the staff that are supposed to be there, because they don't come up and say, when I came to work, I saw this track vandalized. If somebody else come there, that's when you know that the track has been vandalized, which means they are contributing to the vandalization. A case in point that happened 2 weeks ago is between Jeba and Mokwa.
All right, Engineer Fida Tohiria, thanks a lot. You were just, of course, giving us more examples, but we're getting pressed for time, so we're coming back to the studios to engage Nnamdi Nweye, who is the acting deputy commandant general of civil defense. CP Frank Oba tells us that, okay, there are a number of measures that we could adopt. I was just wondering, the scrap dealers, they have an association in Nigeria. I don't know how much engagement there is between, of course, the civil defense and the police authorities with the scrap dealers, so that in the event that there is no law stipulating what they ought to do, as CP Frank Oba had indicated, they could also self-regulate. And if they don't self-regulate, they should also be made aware of the consequences of not self-regulating. One simple example to also cite in this regard, you know, the panel beaters and spray painters, you know, who deal in vehicles and so on and so forth. I mean, if you have a slight dent on your car, you want to ask them to help you touch it up, X, Y, Z, and if the car is going to stay there overnight, they normally would ask you to deposit the photocopies of your documents. Yes. When you ask them, they will tell you that, you know, anytime officers feel combo and ask us where are the particulars of this vehicle. So what stops law enforcement agents from going into the scrap metal yards where the scrap dealers are and then just asking for their papers? I don't know, I'm not a law enforcement officer, but two issues here. What is your interface with scrap metal dealers? That's one. And then secondly, why are there spot checks unannounced at these scrap metal yards to find out, you know, how they got them in the first instance, and where there are no convincing responses, you take them to your office for further interrogation?
Yes, there's interface going on between some of our field men and these scrap dealers, because they have association in Nigeria. You can't just move in scraps into where they stay. But most times you find out that they're not really, some of them do not have an organized business environment. Some on their own open up their own personal decisions that are not under the subjection of the union. And we have been able to find out some of those ones, and at times we involve those ones that are already in union to help us interface and also monitor their activity whenever even stolen goods, apart from these railway sleepers, even stolen metals, vehicles and scrap that come in. They give us information. Some of these are some of the information we are seeing that will lead to even arresting the movement of these trucks we are seeing. Some of them come from where they were loaded. And most of them are scrap dealers. So, we just loaded a vehicle that is just taking off now. Please, this is the number, this is the way particular. We will send out signals to the relevant personnel in the field, and they follow it up from there and make the arrests, at times try to get to where they're going to. On the other one, issue of
spot checks.
Spot checks.
Unannounced.
We carry out spot checks. We even enter markets unannounced. We enter markets, we arrest. We arrest people that cannot show justification where they got whatever they have, because we are bound by the law in that particular incident, because we are asked to enter any premises, search, detain any individual found to be dealing illegally in any material used for bunkering or some proceed of bunkering, or anything used in selling of power holding wires and all those things, materials. So we are bound by law. We arrest even without warrants. So we do spot checks. And most of the successes we have recorded in the field have also been on those spot checks, and also with the intervention of the union leaders. At times when some people bring things into the market, they will ask them to hold on, we'll get back to you. They will send signal to us to come down to look at where these people brought these things from, because they will interview and we make arrests.
So what's the latest on the Nasarawa incident?
The Nasarawa incident, we are still investigating. However, the issue is that, like I told you before, we had 2 men arrested, and those are the ones that have given us the lead. They told us that in the course of their movement towards, on their way to Abuja, they discovered that they were being monitored and being trailed. So the driver quietly stopped the vehicle by the side, and himself and 3 other people, occupants, quietly entered the bush and abandoned the vehicle. Of course, the vehicle has been towed to office, and we are doing due diligence to get to the owner and also people that are owning those the vehicle that are moving those exhibits with.
Okay, I just wondering, CP Francoba, how can we have more diligent prosecution of suspects who are arrested in connection with the vandalism of critical national infrastructure, in particular, say, rail sleepers?
Well, I think what we're doing right now is trying to have a centralized unit for prosecuting all cases that has to do with rail track vandalism. That's one thing we did at the peak of the vandalism that was taking place in the power system. And that's what the police leadership is also doing right now, because the advantage of that is that when you centralize that, over time the officers who are saddled with that responsibility become experts in that field. So we did that also in the oil and gas sector, when we created the pipeline monitoring unit and centralized it. And so when there are arrests of rail track vandals, we intend to just move them into a centralized area. So over time, the people in that team will acquire the requisite skills and competence. They will make mistakes in 1 or 2 cases, and they will learn their lessons and go into the next case and do better. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We also need to continue support from the Railway Corporation. In most cases, when we do this arrest, we will also need to get them to make statements. I was talking to the commander of the STS before coming in here, because I knew things like this might come up. And he told me that the last set of suspects that he's prosecuting right now at the Federal High Court, that he has had a lot of problems getting even the railway staff to even come and make statements. They've not even made statements to him, to the police, let alone coming up to testify in the court. So we will also need a lot more collaboration with the railway workers. And he rightly, Mr. Fidget actually rightly hit the nail on the head when he talked about possible internal subversive elements. And so that's an issue. I'm glad he's dealing with it. Those of us in the law enforcement community must also deal with possible aiding and abetting that sometimes occur amongst officers, whether in the police, in the civil defense, or even in the military.
Okay, on that note, CP Francoba, First Public Relations Officer, thank you for coming. We have Nnamdi Inwiyi, he is Acting Director, Deputy Commandant, General Crisis Management at the Abuja headquarters of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense. Also, we're joined via Zoom by Mr. Fidet Ohere. He's the Managing Director, Nigeria Railway Corporation, and Professor Enatibi Alemeka. He's the Professor of Criminology and member, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us tomorrow for another edition. I am Jumma Yusuf.
And I'm Kingsley.